Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Jamie. And tonight is episode 75.
75.
In our big, beautiful year of telling all of our stories, getting really deep into shit. And I was just remembering when I was driving down here, is that last week, last podcast, we got the knock on the door. And there was an interruption. It was kind of a weird podcast last time.
Oh, that's when they came and told us the water was back on or something? Yeah.
Well, and then right before we started, you guys, the lights flickered again. So we've got some nervous energies tonight because these are all these stories are so big. All these stories are so personal. These are our core stories that we've told ourselves over and over and over again. So each time we retell them and then to the world, it is a little intimidating.
I quit telling this story. So tonight is my turn. Because Jamie and I take turns telling something, that's really impacted our lives, who we are, how we became who we are, the challenges that we faced that turned us into the women that we are, and then how we grew from that, what we learned when we woke up, or I would say when I woke up.
Yeah, your spiritual awakening. And
spiritual awakening,
realize all the shit.
But so tonight's my story, and this is a story that I used to tell a lot when I was younger. It's the story of my parents and my childhood, and I'm going to be clicking, so I better.
She's clicking and tapping. We've already removed the shoes. I'm very nervous.
I
get it.
I'm super nervous about this, and I don't know why. But I used to tell the story a lot. I kind of used to live in it, I think. My parents.
When you say you told it a lot, did you tell it to people or you told yourself? Was it an internal thing?
I told it to people. It was like my origin story, Okay. And when I was younger, and I don't know if everybody does that when you're younger, you kind of tell your background to people that you meet. Not everybody, not just the general public.
Yeah.
But definitely all my friends, all my close intimate partners knew this story, and it was just something that. And maybe that's because that's what I had up to that time too.
That's what you needed to get out there so that maybe you could be more understood. That's what I understand about my own origin stories. You tell people that so they get this insight on you.
Yeah.
It's perspective.
Yeah.
On maybe why you're, when you're young and before you have your spiritual awakening, why you're fucked up.
Yeah. So this is my origin story. Mm-hmm. It starts, of course, like all of ours, with parents. And I'm of an age where my parents grew up. I'll give you a little bit of their background. My dad's was the ninth child. He was born when my grandparents were 42 years old, unexpected. And so all of his siblings were teenagers, and he grew up, I don't know if he was ignored, spoiled. I know they pawned him off on his sister, my Aunt Dixie, and my grandparents really resented them for that because they gave Mike a hard time about it. My brother, Mike, pawning my dad off. So my dad grew up, not the greatest. And then the brother right next to him, who was 19, was killed in Korea. So then that kind of sent my grandparents over the edge. So then he was wild. He started drinking. He would get in wrecks when he was drinking. He went off to the Navy and ended up in Bath, Maine, where my mother was from. So she grew up in, I think, Portland or Bath. And she comes from a fucked up family, too. The only stories I remember about her are her telling me that when she was 3 years old, her dad beat her mom and left her for dead on the front porch and then left. And then her mother had a big house in, a Navy town. And so she would rent out rooms. And she also told me that she was molested by some of the boarders that stayed there in the house. So these are two people that got together with fucked up pasts that then made a baby. And they were not mature. They were probably 19 or 20 years old. My mom had already been married once. She got pregnant and married to get away from her mother, and had 2 kids within a year of that marriage. So when she met my dad, she already had 2 boys. And then she had me. And so between the drinking and all the damage, all the things that they hadn't dealt with in their life, that marriage was not going to last. And when I was 8 months old, I think they split up around that time. And she was a single mom, 22 or 23 years old in 1959.
Three kids alone,
1959. Okay, so when women didn't work and didn't have many options.
Didn't have identities hardly. I mean, you were your husband's property, sort of still.
Yeah,
right?
You still couldn't get credit cards. Women weren't in the workforce. All that stuff. If you're in my age group, you understand. You really get that. The people from that period and that period of time. But anyway, when I was 8 months old, she left me with my grandparents, and I didn't see her again until I was about 3.5 years old. She left my brothers in an orphanage, and then I don't know what she did after that, because I didn't spend a lot of time with her.
Getting to know her.
Yeah. She came back. She left me with my grandparents when I was 8. And part of the story is like I've examined what happens to a baby when you separate a baby from the mother, because I never felt loved I never felt that my mother loved me. She seemed like she was always mad and mean and, angry, and just, she was really, a disciplinarian. She was very hard-handed. She, two of my core childhood memories are, her cutting off all my hair when she beat my ass for beating my sister's ass, and then cut off all my hair and tried to, make me push me out the front door, walk down the street naked was her threat, and I wouldn't go. That was when I was like 10. And then the other time when Easter dresses, we all got dressed up for Easter, and Catholics, and when we came home from church, my dad's like, leave your shoes outside. Well, one of the dogs got a hold of my shoe and chewed the strap of it. And she beat the shit out of me for that and tore my Easter dress off of me. And like, what the fuck? So those are like two core memories of my mother. And she was a scary mom. She wasn't a loving mom. I don't remember love yous. I don't remember hugs. I don't remember bedtime kisses, any of that shit. So I never felt close to her. And then when I was 11, when I was 10, so my brother was 4 years older than me, Rick, and he started getting in trouble when he was like 12 or 13. Up to this point in my life, I did not know that my stepdad was not my real dad. And so when my brother started getting in trouble and they were like, yep, you're going to go live with Jack. That's your dad. It's actually my dad too, but I didn't know that. You're going to go live with Jack. So he went to live with them. Well, they showed up at my school, 6th grade, first day of school, and wanted me to come and live with them.
Who's
me and
they? Your dad?
My dad and my brother. Yeah, came to my school and tried to convince me and my brother Pete to leave my mother's house and go live with them. And so we went home and told her that that's what we wanted to do. That was the first time I'd seen him, mind you. It was so weird.
Your dad. That was the first time you saw your dad.
That was the first time I saw.
Years
old? I was like, I think I just turned 11 because I was starting 6th grade, or I was about to be 11. Because I'm, California. We were, and I don't remember much about that except that it was pretty weird. But I was really glad because I wanted to get out of the house so bad, so I was kind of excited about that. Like, a place to go, like to get away from crazy Nancy.
Yeah.
Because things weren't getting any better at home. I was getting older, and, she was still measuring my skirts so that they were 3 inches below my knee and starting to really try to, I was going to be at the point where I was wearing a bra, and it was not going to be good. But anyway, my father and my brother came to my school, caught me and my other brother, and me and Pete went home and told my mom, and she was all dramatic and called my dad. And anyway, my dad's like, take a knife and stab her in the heart. That's what you're doing.
Jeez.
This is a whole one of those kitchen table talks where, he's making us feel bad. So of course convinced us that we didn't want to go. And I wanted to go though, but I didn't have a voice to speak up. I didn't feel even safe to speak up because she was crazy. But the following year, that next February, one morning, she was shitty to me in the morning on my way to school, said something really nasty, nasty tone of voice, like all the fucking time. And I left the house and I had his address. I had my father's address, and I had his phone number. That's what it was. And so I left the house like I was going to school, but I didn't get on the bus. I went to the mall and I asked a hippie chick to hitchhike with me to the next town so that I could, because we had just moved, hitchhike back to my old town so I could go to one of my neighbors that I knew and call my father. And I did that. I met somebody, she hitchhiked with me there, and go to one of my neighbor's houses and say, can I use your phone? And called him and asked him to come and pick me up. And like, he was there in an hour. And so then I was with him for a couple of weeks. So that was my first like runaway. And
you were 11?
I just turned 11. And, that freedom that I had for those 2 weeks, man, I'll tell you. Because my dad was a partier. He had a girlfriend, he worked in a bar. Him and my brother, they were partying, my brother was like 15 now at this time. So their house was the party house. And I was like, this is the life I want.
Oh, yeah. No more measuring my skirts. Shit. No more nasty comments.
None of that shit, And of course, this was like, now we're talking about 1970, early 1970. So, weeds around and, people are, yeah.
There's a huge difference between environments. And so if you were to go home to your mom, this would have been the restrictive, abusive, like squash your soul. Whereas in this other place, you would have been able to spread your wings and fly. Like you would have been able to at least explore yourself, because this is the coming of age story, right? You get into your teenage years and you've got to learn who you are and who you would have been being in a place where you're so repressed, beat down, kind of tortured in a way.
Yeah. I don't even know what that, I can't, it's hard to imagine
if you had stayed.
If I had stayed with that. But here's the rest of the story. So, of course, he contacted my parents. Jack did. That's my father's name. And he contacted George and Nancy. That's my mother and stepfather. And he contacted them and let him know that I was with him and he wasn't bringing me back. And they started threatening him, and then eventually got a lawyer, and they're like, well, if you don't bring her back, we're going to charge you with kidnapping. And so after 2 weeks, I went back. Yeah. And I don't think I was ever the same after that, because that was February, and of course I wanted to leave. I was like, why can't I live with him?
You could. You had been given this taste of freedom now.
Why can't I live with him? And it was because he's not stable. He works at night. He works in a bar. He lives with somebody. This is 1970, mind you. When people shacking up, that's what they called it. You're shacking up. You're not married. All that bullshit, right? So super judgmental. And that's what the courts would end up saying as eventually, that was the reason why I couldn't live with him, because he didn't provide the stability that a child my age needed.
And unfortunately, what they can't see is what you were going to be provided at the other house was like lots of abuse, like they didn't take into account that shit.
Well, they didn't know any of it. And I didn't have a voice.
Found out either.
And there would be no way that it could be found out, because it wasn't the kind of abuse where I was going to school with bruises. The fits of fury that my mother would go into and either beat us or threaten us or just berate us. There wasn't an everyday occurrence. It would build up over, I don't know. I don't even know how often this shit happened, but I know that I didn't feel like she loved me. I really thought she hated me, honestly. And years later, she had the nerve to tell me that I was her favorite. And I'm like, what? Because that is not the childhood that I remember, feeling like a favorite. Fuck, are you kidding me? She's crazy. Anyway,
she's crazy. I'm just
yeah. So I'm not really doing a good job. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of telling the story.
You are right now. Where we're at is you had to go back.
But anyway,
home.
So the thing is, like Jamie's right, because I wasn't beaten. I wasn't starved. I had a roof over my head. So my home life with a 2-parent family and 5 kids and a new house, we moved into a new house, and my dad worked for General Dynamics. So, he was an electrical engineer. So he didn't have he was a middle class, upper middle class guy. So that looked like a really good home life. So they had no idea.
To the courts.
To anybody from the outside looking in, it looked like normal. But we all know somebody whose home life looked perfect and things were really fucked up behind those doors, when the doors were closed.
And what I think is such a huge testament to this, because I've spent like 2 days around my grandmother, air quotes, Nancy, because she was never a grandmother. She was never there. Like, we didn't even take out, there were not even pictures of her. Like, growing up, we didn't look at pictures of her.
I didn't have any pictures of her.
It was this really weird thing. I was never really around her. And I forgot my whole fucking point that I was going to say, because what I really deemed as like to sort of I hate to say this, authenticate your story, to like understand what you went through. I look at her other children and I look at how fucked up they are. Like my mom went through some hard years, but ultimately had children and got her shit together and raised us and like did the best she could, even being super poor, but like was always there for us, was like that mother that stood by. Whereas when I look at my grandmother's other children, so my aunts and uncles, fuck. Like I've got the two other women of the family, scary,
Yeah, so those are the two that my two younger sisters. So it was two older brothers. So the kid lineup was, Rick and Pete were the two oldest, Rick, Pete, then me. And then with her third husband, because when she came back to get me when I was 3, she was with a new guy. And I don't know if they were married yet, but they did get married and had 3 kids. And that's who she stayed with for the rest of her life until he passed away a couple of years ago. That was George. And he,
George was a good guy.
George was a good guy. The only thing that if I was going to say anything negative about George, is that I feel like he should have stepped in when she was beating on us. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Because he was there. He was there when she cut off all my hair. He was there when she ripped up my dress and just went crazy over the dog chewing the strap off a brand new Easter shoe, which infuriated her. And I guess she needed someone to take, but I was little. That wasn't my fucking fault.
Yeah.
I mean,
where she aimed her anger.
Yeah. How she took out her rage, was just, and then, so that's the only fault that I could find in him. But otherwise I felt like he was a really good stepdad to me. I felt cared for, and he always tried to talk to me like a reasonable person, like calm. I don't remember him yelling, or I don't remember him ever hitting us. He got into it with my oldest brother because my oldest brother like stole his car and then wrecked the car and shit like that. And then one time he got a BB gun out and shot the BB gun and it ricocheted and caught my little brother. So yeah, he like men do when boys get to a certain age, he hit him like a man, which was fucked up, but never me. So anyway, he was a good dad, but where was I? Okay. So 11, now I'm back at my mom's house and I've had 2 weeks of crazy, crazy time with my dad, which one Friday. Yeah. One, I even drank, which was nothing, anything to brag about, but it was a party. So, I was like, yeah,
at 11.
Yeah, wow. I looked older, you remember what Jolene looked like when she was 11.
Yeah. We tend to look a lot older than we are when we're young, and then younger than we are when we're old.
When I was 12, I could easily pass for 17. So, so I looked older, but I was very immature. Yeah. I was very shielded. So I acted really stupid when I look back, and I was like, that was embarrassing. But anyway, so I go back to her house, and of course, I don't want to be there, but the excuse is you can't live with them. So that was what they were saying, but he acted like he wanted me to live with him. So I wrote him a letter and told him that I was going to run away, and my brother found it and ratted me out. My brother Pete, because Rick was gone now. Rick was living with Jack. And ratted me out to my mother. So July 20th, 1970, a day that will live on, because this was the day, besides the day that my mother dropped me off at my grandmother's house, this was this day, what happened this day changed my life forever, because my mother, when she found that letter, she took me in the car and drove me down to juvenile hall in San Diego and marched my ass in there and told him that I was uncontrollable and to lock me up. And believe it or not, in 1970, they did that. They also locked up runaways. Years later, when my daughter was 12 years old and she was pulling crazy shit with me, they didn't do anything. They don't even pick up runaways. Uncontrollable, they don't even, that's not even a thing. But they locked your ass up in juvenile hall in 1970 for that shit. My mother put me in there, and I never went home after that. Ever went home. The next 4 years I spent in juvenile hall and group homes and foster homes, running the streets of not San Diego, but LA, because I got sent to like group homes in LA. And that's where I kind of like really got out and met people and stuff. And I never went home. And then when I was, and that really changed everything because I became a ward of the state of California. I spent my first time in juvenile hall, it was 6 months and 1 day. I didn't get out until the first time I got out was 6 months and 1 day later. So January 21st, 1971. It's weird how I can remember these fucking days, but they're like seared into my brain because these were monumental times in my life when it was shaping me. And so by this time now I'm 12. And I started my period in juvenile hall, and I really kind of went crazy in there.
Define crazy.
I used to do, this is going to sound so stupid, but we used to do what we call start riots. We would start like banging on shit and yelling and just causing, because we'd be locked in our rooms. And you get a couple people going, and then you get the whole unit going. Because it was just like, a big hallway with doors that they locked you in. It wasn't.
You were like in jail.
It was jail. Yeah. There was high fences. There was no going out into the yard. There was no, you went into a room at night, click, and you were locked in for the night, and that was it. And so I did a lot of crazy shit in that first 6 months. I kind of went nuts and got put in solitary and just, I don't know.
Did you feel nuts?
I just felt really, I think I felt a lot of rage,
Sure.
And
the injustice.
I think I felt a lot of rage because it was during this time when, because there's court happening, right? When all this is going on, because you get in there and then you got to go to court, and then the court's like, okay, well now you need a social worker and we need to know what's going on. And I'm like, I have a father. He lives in El Cajon. I want to live with him. And this is when the court is like, he's not stable. He works at night in a bar. He lives with a woman and her daughter. And then of course my brother was in trouble. So it was like this whole house that the court didn't deem was an appropriate place for me.
But locking you up was.
Yeah, but locking me up was, and trying to find a foster home. The problem with me was that, foster homes are hard to find, and especially for kids that age. And then group homes, I hadn't done anything, like I hadn't broken a law. So there was really, the places where I could go were limited. They sent me at one point to a Crittenden, which is a home for unwed mothers, because it was like the only place. So it was like all these pregnant girls in this big 3-story house in Highland Park, which is part of LA. And that's where I met my first boyfriend, lost my virginity in an abandoned house.
You lived with a bunch of pregnant women, got your first boyfriend, and then lost your virginity. This is the whole scene of it. It's like,
yeah, he lived up the street from it, and I would sneak out at night and then sneak into his house. He had like a basement room, and I would sneak in there. And one morning we fell asleep. And when I was sneaking back down, the next door neighbor saw me coming out, and I'm in my nightgown, because if I get caught going out of Crittenden, I would just be like, oh, I was just taking a walk or whatever. Because in Crittenden, you weren't locked in. It was all open. You could leave anytime you wanted to, really. So I would sneak out and go up the hill. But the neighbor saw me and told my boyfriend's parents that he saw me. And so I got an ice pick and stabbed his tires.
I'm just glad you said tires at the end of that, because I don't know that story. This is a new one for me. Now she's ice pick mom.
So
love it.
So, at this point, I think I'm a little, I get real wild. For the next couple of years, because once I had sex for the first time, then I became really promiscuous. I was willing to try anything, drugs. I was hitchhiking all over the place, because this is early 70s. It was still safe to do that, semi-safe, safer than you wouldn't do it now. But just, and every time they would put me somewhere, I would run away. So they put me in the first time I got out. I think they sent me to a foster home, and I was there 2 months, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to leave. So I just ran away. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be here.
What it feels like is that for so long, at the early part of your life, you had you got no input on your life. Everything was super fucking controlled. And then she got you locked up, and like that was the ultimate control, right? Now you're behind bars and she's not even there doing it, but she did it.
Yeah, but the thing is like you get exposed to so many other girls that were bad girls, because I was the baby compared to them. They were all like 15, 16 years old. There were no 11 and 12-year-old girls in there with me. These girls were all, you know, I don't even know.
What did they think about you being so young and being in there?
I don't, you know what? I don't think they realized, because I didn't look that young, and we didn't talk about age. But, you know, I mean, they're the oldest girls, like the 17-year-olds, they had different units. So they did group us together. It was like 3 units for the girls, and they did group us together. So at least the youngish, but I bet the oldest, you know, I bet it was 15. And then like the 16 and then the 17, close to 18-year-olds or something. Anyway. But yes, I got exposed to a lot of things. And I remember my parents one time coming to visit me, and I told them I'd used drugs, and I'd never used drugs in my life at that point when I told them that. But you know what? The look on their faces and the pain that caused them. Yeah, I got something then. I got something out of that. And I was not sorry, which is just awful. So anyways,
it's not like being able to look at it now. Can't you see what, like, I know you're telling the story from your perspective, but I'm listening to it, and you can see where you are trying to reclaim some kind of power for yourself, of your life, of your own essence, of your own identity, of anything. And the fact that you really didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong in the first place, right? For all of this shit to start. And it reminds me of that movie, White Oleander. Have you ever seen that movie?
Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
She love that movie.
Yeah, she's the one with the Astrid.
Astrid, the daughter, yes. Yeah. And the group homes and the things. And then like she finally gets to this one place, and she goes with, you know, like the woman who is going to basically teach her the most about life. Like, you've got to try everything, because she was really sheltered, and she was able to have a life that was sort of, she was kept the way her mother wanted her to. And yet her mother criticized her for that. You know, it was kind of fucked up. There was like this, not a great relationship, even though her mom was like, you're my everything, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then she goes in with all these people and gets kind of hardened by everything. And when her mom finally sees her, right, I imagine the scene, because you just said you told them you used drugs. When Michelle Pfeiffer's character sees her daughter, she's got like dyed hair and lip piercings, and she's all dark and gothic and like smoking cigarettes and looks fucking hardened. And she's just like, oh my God. Like, isn't this what you wanted? You did this to me. You didn't want me to be with somebody safe and soft, and like, you wanted me to learn something. Yeah. Here's what I learned.
I don't know that my parents expected what happened to me, because, you know,
what did they think was going to happen?
I don't know what they thought was going to happen. I don't know what they thought would, if I would like, learn my lesson and want to come home. But I'll tell you something, once I was in there and I was in front of a judge, I was like, I don't want to go back there, you know. Or I mean, I don't even know if that was an option for me, because I can't remember. I just know they started looking for places to send me. But the first 6 months that I was there, I gained 30 pounds, because I used to, the first 6 months. So I got fat, you know. I was just little thing. I was probably 5'2" at that time. So, and that made me look older too, you know, having that extra weight on me. And I never lost that fucking 30 pounds. And that makes me so mad. I wonder if I would have had to struggle with my weight as much as I have if it hadn't been for that first 6 months in juvenile hall. Because they fed you like mashed potatoes and bread, you know, all the starches and stuff. And you could have as much as you want, and dessert and all, you know. They fed you too well, you know.
They fed you rich.
With
rich
like
calorie
and you know, and you weren't doing that much, right? Because you were locked up, so you weren't like running around playing. I mean, if I'd been at home, I would have been up in the groves. I would have been riding my bike. I would have been doing things that kids do, you know, been doing stuff at school. We went out and had PE and shit, but it was like jumping jacks and whatever, you know, not a lot of physical activity.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, I went to the foster home and ran away and ran away from there. And every time I would run away from someplace, if I could have run away from juvenile hall, I would have. You couldn't get out of there. But each time they would put me someplace, I'd be like, yeah, I just don't want to be here anymore. I'm just going to leave, and I don't really give a fuck what happens to me. But I eventually, anyway, ended up in Crittenden, and kind of Crittenden in LA is where I got really exposed to like a shit ton of stuff. Because we're talking about like near Pasadena. I was near Pasadena is where I lived. And lot of wild girls, and they all lived around there. So I met people, I learned things, I met guys, I started trying stuff. I was, the boyfriend didn't last, the first boyfriend didn't last long. So there were others. At one point, some girl at the Crittenden, I can't remember how long I stayed there, but some girl there thought I wanted her boyfriend, and like this whole group of like 30 girls got me in a room and like, you were flirting with Donna's boyfriend or some shit. And I was like, what? No, I wasn't. And they beat me. They like gang
Jumped
me. Yeah, they jumped me. And they were pregnant.
You got beat up by pregnant women? Oh my God, how do I not know this story?
I remember the littlest one. The littlest one was probably like 4'11" with a big belly, and she was like the leader of the pack.
Oh my God. Not Donna's boyfriend.
Because supposedly I flirted with Donna's boyfriend, Donna Moran. That was her name. And I'm like, because I said hi. So yeah, that kind of shit. And then back to juvenile hall. So every time I would get caught, go to a place, go through some shit, run away, get caught, get sent back to juvenile hall, start going through the court system again. They find another place for me. When I'd run away like 2 or 3 times, by the third time they're like, "Oh, okay, now you're just defying our court orders and shit because you're not staying put." So one of the last times, they sent me to a place called Las Colinas, which is now a county jail, a jail for women in San Diego, but it was a girls' facility back in the 70s.
A girls' facility
where they sent bad girls like me, and I got like, after, you had to like work your way through these programs, work your way through a program where you started off as a novice and you had to spend so much time and do these things, right? You had to work a program to get out of there. It's similar to what my daughter Jolene told me about, because I locked my own daughter up when she was 13 because I was worried she was going to like die or something because she just was out of control. She was running away and
very rebellious,
super rebellious and disrespectful and fuck you, I'm going to do what I want kind of shit. And I had to have her locked up. I felt like for her own safety. So it was like that. We had to work a program. But anyway, I was in there for a month or 2 months or whatever. And they're like, okay, you've earned a furlough now. So my old foster family were like, yeah, she can come and stay for the weekend. We'll pick her up on Friday, bring her back on Sunday, right? Yeah. Saturday morning, this was in San Diego, and Saturday morning, I got on a bus and went to LA and fucking ran away. And I was 12. It was coming up on my 13th birthday in a couple more months. And that time, all the other times I had run away, I always got caught really quick. I was never gone very long. Well, this time when I ran away to LA, back to my old neighborhood where this Crittenden was, and where I knew people in Highland Park. I was on the streets for 2 months, and a lot of shit fucking happened to me. One day I went to Griffith Park, and I got in a car with 4 guys, and I ended up getting raped by all 4 of them. It was not a hold you down, beat you up type of a thing. It was a, we're going to do this, and you can either accept it or not. So I just laid there while each one took a turn. Yeah. And
I remember this story growing up.
And then in the morning, I was in a room where there was a door to go outside, like outside door. And in the morning when I woke up, I could hear him in the other room, and I just went out that door and left. So nothing ever. But, I blamed myself for that because I got in a car with 4 guys, which wasn't safe. But
it sucks that you blamed yourself for what they did to you.
Yeah.
I think that sucks. I get that you did something that was unsafe. That doesn't give them the right to do what they did, though. That is not your fault that men were
Well, the other thing was, I was willing to go along with drinking and doing whatever drugs anybody had, too. So, I mean, it's like you get yourself in these situations. I don't know how to. I don't blame myself, but I just feel like, God, was that... I would really make some dangerous and risky... I took a lot of risks. I hitchhiked across country when I was 16 by myself because I needed to get back to North Carolina. So let me finish telling you the sordid tale of how Kat got really fucked up and closed and then decided that this is how the walls got built around my.
Well, I already want to bring something else up. I can see how you not feeling loved or worth anything because you got sent away and locked away and all the shit. And so if nobody else found value in you, how do you find value in yourself? And so that's why all the really risky fucking behavior, because who are you staying alive for? Who's loving you? Who's taking care of you? Who are you going home to? It's like for our brain that says we need people to feel safe. We need a community. We need to be like accepted. We needed all this. And you had none of that. How and when and where did you find your love and acceptance? It was through all these crazy acts. It was the attention that you got that was small and not the healthiest, but it was attention and it was a group and you knew people and there was like some semblance of a tribe there. Yeah. But when you think about how you really got pushed out of your tribe, and I speak about this like from a, the old brain, the monkey brain of like, acceptance and psychology and all that. That is why you were like, who fucking cares? I mean, deep down, like the self, not being able to have the self-love because you weren't shown that. You didn't know how to feel it. You didn't see outside love coming to you. Where was your worth ever built? So that's what this just reminds me of, how it's not just your walls. Cause I know your walls very well, but your self-worth. And this is the relationships.
Yeah. If I wasn't already damaged from, the mother wound, the abandonment of my mother when I was a baby, not having your mother for that long. I don't know what I would have, I don't know how I would have turned out if all this stuff hadn't happened to me, but a lot of bad shit happened at one point during this time. Cause at one point during this time, my dad got a girlfriend and got married. And so then, of course, and the court was always like interacting with my parents and like, thinking at some point in time I would end up back home. And when my dad got together with his second wife, Betty Lou, then he had a stable home. So now I'm like 13, close to 14. And they're like, he's like, yeah, I'll take her and she can come and live with me. And I don't know if they were married at that point actually yet, but now it's like 73 or whatever it is. And people aren't so freaked out about couples living together, or they were going to get married. I really can't remember, but that shit lasted 2 months because,
crazy Betty Lou. I met her in person
because she had a lot of problems. She had a lot of health problems and stuff. Like she had a miscarriage while I was there. I lasted 2 months with them, and which was about my duration for everywhere except for juvenile hall, through these years, for these like 4 years,
I just want to call up all your other 2 month things, switching your house around all the time, moving places. That is not unique to just then. You still have to have things different
patterns.
Now, every like 2 months, there's got to be some shifts. There's got to be some movement. We got to move some shit around.
You're not wrong. Your color. You're not wrong.
That's interesting.
Anyway, Betty Lou was not well, or she was a hypochondriac, but whatever the case was, she had drugs. And I got into her drugs, and me and my friend, this time I'm living in El Cajon and going to Ballantyne. It was a junior high school instead of middle school. They didn't call them middle schools then. Ballantyne. And anyway, I didn't last very long because, I had a fucking attitude. What do you expect, right? And they didn't really want me there. So anyway, one day I come home from school, and Betty Lou is sitting in the chair in the living room smoking, and there's boxes stacked up around her, and she's, like this. And I just go into my room, and my father comes home from work, and he comes into my room, and he's like, yeah, Betty Lou says it's either you or her. So, yeah. So bye. So took me
by a second parent.
So took me back to juvenile hall, or however I got there. I don't remember at this point, what the process was, but basically that was the end of that. And 50 years later, that bitch was still like, you blah 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 blah. 50 years later, she was still holding a grudge when I went to see my father and close that chapter of my life. a few years ago with the girls. We went out there. So that happened. Let's see, what else is something that's like really big. So yeah, father abandoned. And, you know, I don't, there was like a minute when I went home for like 3, there was actually like a very brief period, and I can't remember how things happened chronologically, but there was this really brief period where I did go back to my parents' house. And I remember because there's pictures of me and I was pretty chubby, you know, I was like short and chubby, and they put me in a fucking religious school. They thought that was a good idea. And they put me in a religious school. And, you know, of course I was worldly by now, and I knew a really dirty poem. And so I was on the playground swing, and I was swinging back and forth and reciting this poem, and it goes something like this.
Oh boy, I don't know.
In the garden, as everyone knows, lives Adam and Eve without any clothes, and in this garden there was a breeze. Anyway, there's something about a fig leaf, and then there was a breeze, and now there are no leaves. And I knew like the whole thing. It was really long, and it was very graphic. And I'm on the swing, and I'm telling it in all these and I'm in a religious school. Yeah, I was gone after that.
She knew what she needed to do to leave. She knew she just needed to have like the right nursery rhyme to get kicked out of there.
I don't even remember when that was, but I know that was like, it was such a short period of time that I only remember the one picture that I can see myself with, you know, where I'm like super puffy, and then being on the swing, them sending me to a religious school. Are you kidding me? A religious school? Oh my God.
You want to know what's interesting now? Because just saying that, I realized that another pattern that I see for you is that whenever you want to change shit, you just rebel against it. You're like, yeah, I'll get you to decide. Like, I'll make you want to make me leave. Like, I don't even have to do anything. I'll just do this shit here, and you're going to decide, and you're going to make that move.
When have I done that? What are you is that my relationship?
No, I mean, this is the years that you're talking about right now, right? Like, you knew the things that you were doing, the running away, the doing this, the bucking the system, the fuck you, I'm going to, like, you know.
Yeah, it was basically a big fuck you.
Everything was like, I'll make you do what I want you to do, which is I don't want to be here. So I'm either like, I'm going to piss you all off and you're not even going to want me. And then I'm just gone. And it all started from it all started from this like misconception of like, you just wanted to go and live with your dad, who you've never been around, who you thought this could be a different way of living that was better than your mom's house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And and I felt like it was really shitty that I didn't know, you know, this was a big secret from me. I didn't even find out that I had a different dad from all the other kids until I was 10. And, you know, so I'd been being lied to, which, you know, I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck is that shit? You know, why did they do that? And when did they think that I remember when I would go to school, they would always have my name wrong, and it would be the same last name as my brother's. And my parents would blow it off as, oh, they just made a mistake. But because my bio dad adopted my brothers while he and my mom were married for like 3 years. So we all had the same last name. But my parents enrolled me in school under my stepdad's name. But every year when I would get there, it'd be like I'd have my brother's last name, and I would be really confused about it. And then my parents would just be like, oh, they're just getting it confused. So they had the opportunity to tell me, you know, and they never did. And I don't know what the big secret was, except that I know that my mother and father, bio mother, bio dad, really ended up hating each other a lot, and used me as a pawn to get each other back. Like, I think my mother's whole thing was she wanted to keep me away from my dad because she knew that's what he wanted. It really didn't have anything to do with me. It was she wanted to hurt him. And you know what? And he would do things to hurt her too. You know, like it was, yeah.
Yeah, because there was one point when you were little that you were with your dad because you had seen Mike when he was a baby. You were with your dad.
Oh, and I lived with my dad. Yeah.
And Nancy came and said, we're just going to take her, and then just fucking disappeared with you.
Yeah. So, you know, back to when I was, like I told you guys, I'm not telling the story very good, but
and there's just a lot to it. So we have to jump around
and you know, I don't tell the story anymore. I used to be able to be like, yeah, this is what happened. And I could run right through it from start to finish. But now it's been a lot of years since I've told it. You know, it's been, and even with that, some of the things chronologically, how they happened, I can't remember. It's been too long ago. But when I was, I told you when I was 8 months old, she left me with my father's parents, my paternal grandparents. Eventually my dad came and got me took me back out to California. He was, living with a woman. She had a child. She had a little girl who was a year younger than me. And then she was pregnant with my brother. And
you were there a little while.
And I was there for a while. Yeah. I don't know how long, because nobody can remember. And, I didn't have a relationship with my father later either. So I could never ask him. And I didn't have a relationship with my mother. So, I never got a lot of the stories. I don't know. But
that's another thing is like your origin story has so many holes in it. How do you know who you are when you don't know what you come from, what happened to you? Like that, I think that alone really fucks with people. Like when you don't know your story, like where was I? What did my childhood exist of? Where have I lived before? I feel like we need to know that as humans. And this is why, like, Cameron's dad's adopted, so I watched that happen with him. He has 2 other siblings that are adopted. I watched their story about just trying to figure themselves out. So listening to yours, even though it was like your bio parents, there's still so many gaps because of the games they fucking played using you as the pawn.
Yeah. So and also, I left, I was so young when I left that the conversations that you start having with your children as they start to mature and as they come into their teenage years, I never got that.
Yeah.
So
no guidance,
I didn't get the guidance, but I also didn't get to, I didn't get any feedback from them. There was never, I know with my own children, I told my children all my stories, right? And we would sit around and talk, and they knew everything. I felt, they knew my story. They knew the whole story of my life, which is part of their life,
and all of our lives. And she could tell us everywhere we live, things we've been through, good and bad, and we knew it. We knew our origin story. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
But when I was about 3.5, my mother came to my father's house and showed up at my dad's house. He was living in Imperial Beach in San Diego, and he was working, and his pregnant girlfriend was there. And
they took you when she was home.
She was like right just about to have my brother. I think she was like, because my mom said she was like really big, right? She was really big and pregnant. And anyway, she came there that day and said she wanted to take me to the zoo. And so Ingrid, that was her name, called my dad at work, and he's like, yeah, okay, she can take her to the zoo, or they talked or whatever. So she left there with me and took me, and they took me to San Francisco, where she lived with her new husband my youngest sister, and then my 2 brothers. She gathered them up from the orphanage. And I never saw my dad again. And of course I had no memory of that, but
but Ingrid did, you guys. And cool story to just throw in a fact. We did 23andMe, found mom's brother that she didn't even really know she had. She kind of knew it, but didn't really know it.
I knew, but I could never find him. I didn't know his name. I didn't know his name for sure.
So,
and it turns out it's not the same last name as mine.
And he lived in Florida. We met up with him. I have an Uncle Mike now. It's fucking cool as shit. And we got to meet Ingrid, who I got to watch their whole reunion when she saw my mom again. And she said, it tore me up for years that she took you and I had no idea what happened to you. I never saw you again. And she felt guilty about that for years. This is another thing that my air quotes grandmother did to other people and fucking hurt them, like emotionally just wrecking people's lives,
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard to forgive her.
It was funny when I met Ingrid for the first time, after not seeing her for all those years. She came up here with Mike, with my brother, and when she saw me, she's like, you look exactly the same. The eyes haven't changed at all. Yeah.
I remember how emotional it was. Gosh.
It was very emotional.
Yeah.
Okay. So have I left out anything really important?
So now we're to the place.
Go ahead.
Well,
because I'm getting to my last, because there's one last thing that happens with my parents before that's it.
Oh,
so there's one more chance, one more opportunity that my parents, and I'm talking about my mother and my stepfather, I give them one last opportunity to fucking do right by me. I guess you could say that.
Tell that story.
Okay. So after the 2 months in LA living on the streets, I get caught. I'm living in an abandoned house, staying in an abandoned house. So I was very crafty though. I would, what was
she
it?
says that while pointing her toe, shaking her leg. Like, I was very crafty.
Well,
though.
not crafty.
There's
I
pride
say
there. I like
crafty,
that.
wily. I used to, the way that I survived
Outwitted.
the way I survived was, for food, like I would get in trash cans of the Hostess store behind the Hostess store.
Hostess, like
Hostess Twinkies and shit like
Oh
that.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
and back then they didn't try to like cut everything open so nobody could get
It was
your
all in
food. So
packages.
get food out of the trash can, steal clothes out of people's dryers so I would have clothes. Just at one point I got really sick and stayed in somebody's basement for like a week, and I think I had mumps or measles or something. And then there was another guy during that time too. And one day we were walking down the street, and he was really, really high on something. I don't know what, but we were just walking down the street talking, going to his house, and he grabbed me around the neck and just started like, like just beat the fuck out of me, like in the face, like really beat me up. And for no reason, like just out of the blue, for no reason. I don't know what we were talking about. We weren't fighting. Nothing was going on. And, but I still went to his house with him. So whatever.
Fuck? Yeah.
But then his brother came in. I remember his brother came in and saw me and, asked what happened. And I don't know if he smarted off and said that then his brother beat the shit out of him.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I'm living, and by the time it's almost 2 months of being a runaway, I'm like, I really just wish I could get caught. I'm about ready to turn myself in because this is exhausting.
Yeah.
I can't keep living like this. I mean, it was getting really difficult. And there was an abandoned house, a 2-story abandoned house in a neighborhood that I knew that I stayed in. I found like a mattress. I found a pillow. I found a candle. Well, that candle's what got me caught because I would light that candle when I would go up there at night, and the neighbors called the cops. And then one morning I got woke up by the police sleeping on the floor in this abandoned house, and they took me in, and I was relieved, I was ready to get back and get on with my life. So I go back to Las Colinas, and this time I worked the program. This time I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what I need to do because I'm tired of this shit, right? I've been crazy.
You did the freedom thing.
I did the freedom thing, the rebellion thing, and it wasn't, it just was like it was getting old. And so I started working the program. I had a really good counselor who would talk to me, but at one point a girl comes in there, and for some reason, have you ever met somebody? I'm going to tell you a terrible thing that I did because this is who I was at that time. But anyway, a girl comes in there. Her name was Becky Chisholm. Becky, if you're out there, I'm sorry. I know it doesn't matter, but it
could matter.
I mean, I don't know if it matters. I mean, I know it doesn't change anything, but anyway, as soon as I saw this girl, I instantly didn't like her. And when I say didn't like her, I mean, I just hated her, and for no reason. And I didn't even understand why until years later, when I saw a picture of the Ingrid's daughter, Vicky. And
I remember this story.
Ingrid's daughter, and that girl Becky looked exactly like Vicky. And all I could think about was that Vicky was probably mean to me or something,
Yeah.
Because my reaction to this girl was it was just like instant. And me and another girl jumped her in the bathroom and scared her so bad that she ran away. She ran away from Las Colinas and got in trouble. And then I got in trouble. But after that, I started getting my shit together. I worked the program. You had to graduate through all the program. I worked with my counselor. I really liked her. Her name was Marilyn. She was this Black lady. She was beautiful and she was super smart. And she just really knew how to reach me. She was like the first person that really talked to me and could reach me. They found me a foster home with Tom and Donna, and they had 3 kids. The kids were close to my age. And I went and lived with them for I don't know. I was there for about 1.5 years living with them. And that was stability finally. The only thing about them is we had to go to church every weekend, but you do what you got to do, right? So it's Sunday we spent time in church.
So you stopped seeking freedom and started sucking it up a little bit because you were looking for something better. So you started to put in that work of it's not always going to be comfortable. Yeah. I do have to work at this. I don't get to do whatever the fuck I want.
Exactly. I mean, I was at that point. And so, I'm 14 now, 14 going on 15. And, 1.5 years I lived there, and the this was during the gas shortage. So I remember sitting in line with Tom, my foster dad, sitting in lines to get gas. So it was that period of time. But anyway, one day I go over to spend the night with a girlfriend, and my foster brother shows up and says, or foster parents or somebody, one of them came and told me that they were leaving, that they were moving out of state. Well, I was a ward of the state of California, and I could not go. I could not leave the state. They were leaving because he lost his business. Of course, I didn't know all the shit, because when you're a kid, you don't know what's going on in the house. Yeah. But he had lost his business. He had a concrete pumping business. He failed at it, and they were just going to run. They were going to take their family and just move to Colorado. And they were like, but you can go and live with Uncle Ronnie over here in Santee, in this town over. I knew Uncle Ronnie. It was Donna's uncle. I knew him from church. And so I knew the family. And I was like, and I was like, okay, well, what choice do I have, right? I have to go. I mean, I don't really have a choice but to go live there. So I go live with them. And that's when I met Jamie's dad.
Yay!
He was my neighbor.
Enter in my dad.
He was my neighbor. We were both 15, and we really liked each other, not like boyfriend and girlfriend, because I was still chubbo, I never was able to lose the weight.
Don't say you didn't like each other because you were chubbo. First off,
well, he was really cute. He was super cute.
You guys had a chemistry that was undeniable, no matter how much weight you carried. Don't just immediately put yourself down.
We had a lot of fun together. We got high together. We skipped school. I taught him how to drive. I used to steal the foster parents' car. I fucked a foster sister's husband.
What the fuck? You fucked a husband when you were 15? Oh my God.
I hated the fucking family. I hated that. I hated those people. They were so goddamn religious, and everybody just wanted to try to fucking control me and everything that I was doing. Well, he flirted with me. He was making footsies under the table, and I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. So yeah. So that happened, and then let's see, why did I run away from there? Oh, I know what happened. So Rick, her dad, he ran away from home. And I snuck out in the car one night. I took their car one night and went down to the beach to see if I could find him. And I drove on the boardwalk, and I got a ticket, because you're not supposed to drive on the boardwalk, evidently. And so then I knew I was going to be in big trouble once they found out that I stole the car. So I ran away. All right. It was like, I can't stay here anymore because they're just going to lock me up. So I ran away. And, I was staying with somebody, and I wrote my parents a letter, Nancy and my stepfather, and asked them if I could come home. I was like, I'm ready I'm ready to come home. Can I come home? They showed up at the apartment that I was staying at, and they're like, got me in the car, and they're like, yeah, no, you can't come home, but we're going to send you to North Carolina to your grandparents' house. And so they put me on a plane and sent me across the country to North Carolina to my grandparents' house. And mind you, my grandparents are 80 or something at this point, right? And that's where I lived for the next year and a half, until I graduated high school, and then I got out of there. But the first summer that I was there, my foster family came back from Colorado. They went to Fresno, and so I went out there to see them, and I was like, I want to stay. And they're like, you can't stay with us. You can't live here. And I didn't have a way to get home, and that's when I hitchhiked across country. Nothing too terrible happened. Some happened, but it doesn't matter what it is. But anyway, that's the only way the last year and a half of being 16, I was 17 and a half, I finally went to school, decided I was going to graduate, got a job, bought a car, had some stability, even though my grandparents really couldn't handle me. So they sent me across the street to live with my aunt, which was the one that raised my father. So now she's having to raise his daughter, who's really rebellious.
Fucking crazy. First off, the way the family is just let's just mix up these kids. We're just shuffling cards around. We're like, I don't want to do this. This is, you take this kid. No, we're going to do just what God. The fuck?
Yeah. So that's my crazy fucking life. And when I finally got out of there, when I graduated high school, I was like, I'd been waiting for the day to turn 18 so I could finally control my own life. And as soon as I graduated from high school, I left. And then that's the rest of the story after that becomes a whole nother story, because that's when John's father comes into it. So let's back up to some of the things that I want to talk about. So that was a crazy disjointed story, and I'm sorry, and I hope you could follow it.
I think that Mr. Tinkers has to go to the bathroom so bad. He came out here and now he's going to the door and still whining. So
okay.
And I'm gonna take a short break. Kat's gonna stay on, but I'm gonna just go let the pups out because he seems pretty serious.
Yeah,
okay. He doesn't usually bother us ever when we're working.
Yeah, that's fine. So what I'm gonna back up. So you got the story of all the shit that happened, right? And the thing that I think when I look back on time through my life and see like why was I so at the points where I was like really promiscuous or was very rebellious was almost to the point where I put myself in danger and didn't really care if something happened to me. And, I've tried to, I don't know. I think when you are pushed around like that or like sent here, sent there, you can't go home. You don't really have parents. Your parents just are like, fuck it. We don't want you. The court's like, well, you can't go here and then you can't stay there. And the foster family leaves you. Like everybody fucking leaves you, right? Everybody fucking abandons you. And this because the next years, through my 20s, I really got heavy into drugs for a long time. I did the escape thing. So, but I feel like sometimes I'm still dealing with my worth, because when you're a parent, when your parents abandon you, like, what does that say? They don't love me, right? Nobody loves me. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of this, security. So, then you just start acting out, or at least I did anyway. Other people may withdraw, but the way that I handled it is I acted out in a very rebellious and, illegal and just
you put yourself in danger because there wasn't worth.
I just, I really went off the deep end and, I just really fucking didn't care about anything or anybody, at this, just like, why, people don't care about you. So why care about them? So then I had kids and let's see, what did I, so what I was talking about was like when you're abandoned by your parents and also like all the moving around, all the like,
no stability.
Here, no, you can't stay here. So no stability, no love, during these years, like who loved me during those 4 years when I was, from the time my mother left me in juvenile hall until I went even to North Carolina, like there was nobody that was nurturing me. There was nobody that was being like, Marilyn was like the closest thing that I had to somebody who actually showed me that they gave a shit. Marilyn, my counselor that was in Las Colinas, who actually talked to me and, tried to help me fucking understand some of the things that I was doing and how I needed to change, and why what I was doing was so damaging. And, at that point, I liked her so much. I was like, I want to be a psychologist. I should have followed that path. But, the crazy still went on because I was not healed it took me such a long time to heal from all of that and to get past it or not. I don't even know if get past it is the right word. To like accept it and not blame myself and realize that my parents were damaged. They were fucked up. They were also, they had their own damage. It's the trauma. It's the generational trauma, right? From one generation to the next, this trauma is passed down. And when I had kids, the one thing that I said before I became a mother was, I will never be like my mother. I will not be her. That was my one fucking goal when I was going to be a mother, was to not be my mother, for my kids to know that I loved them. And I did that, but that also carried some weight with it too. But that's another podcast.
Well, one of the things that I think of when we're explaining this story, if anybody is really feeling connected to understanding what Kat's been through and sort of like, I've been through the same shit, where do we go psychologically to understand stuff?
Where does it show? Oh, there we are. There's our time. Okay. I thought it was over there. I'm like, are we recording?
Just an hour into it, we check if we're recording.
I was just seeing what time it was. Like, oh my God, that was like an hour of me talking. So, okay. I would like you to come into this now because you've got the psychology background.
This is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. what's funny is like you wanting to be a psychologist, that's then what I went to school for, because I needed to understand psychologically what the fuck is wrong with everybody else. Not me. No, I'm perfect. there's my fucked upness, right? Like I believe I'm just perfect and everybody else is fucked up. Love that for me. Not truly. I know my issues, but it's like I act with such honor and integrity, and I wonder why other people don't. And I was like, why does nobody ever, like, what is wrong with people? So I learned about, I always get his name, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you guys have not explored this topic, it is so fucking interesting, and it will really help you understand where people are operating from. That's the most important thing, is that when we run across people that are just, going through a bunch of shit, and then you learn their backstory, like what Kat just told of hers. When you do not have your needs met, you are operating from such a baseline of like, I just need food and shelter and fuck everybody else. Like, you don't even understand. I'm going to pretend like I'm in this game of, yeah, we're going to hang out every day. But truly, at the end of the day, I don't know where I'm sleeping. I don't know when I'm going to get food again. I don't know where my next thing is coming from. I'm not secure for the next 24 hours. Like this is level 1 of like, if these needs are not met, there is nothing else that can be done. Your brain literally can't learn anything new. You're not going to function as a person. Forget fucking reflection and spiritual insight and like actually thinking about what you're trying to do. You're in pure survival mode. And we talk about this in the spiritual world for sure, about like operating from survival mode. In order to, create a witchcraft practice, even if you're operating in survival mode, doing something like that, tapping into that is so far-fetched for you, because you're like, I'm just trying to survive my situation. That's why we talk about like, when you're at that place, life is fucking hard. You need to get out of it. You need to change it in whatever way that you can. Operating from just like not having your needs met at all, not knowing where your security comes from.
Yeah, never feeling,
stability,
abandonment, and then feeling unloved, which equates to I'm not worthy. I have no self-worth.
Yeah,
and then just not having basic needs met, like not having stability, not having people, not having a home. I didn't have a home for like 4 years, foster homes. The longest foster home was like 1.5 years. The others were like 2 months.
From the time you were like 11, you really didn't have a home, because that decision was made by your mom.
Yeah, for sure. From the time she put me in juvenile hall.
11-year-old, like that is such a baby.
When I see, oh my God, you guys,
so
when
young.
When my grandsons were that age, and I would see the little girls that they would, that would be around, that would be in that same age group. And I would look at those girls and I would think, my God, I was a baby. Even though in your head, I know that you felt and you did grown things, but like when you see an 11-year-old now, you're like, I was really fucking you were. I was really young.
Yeah.
That's so young and so little, and like you don't fucking know anything.
Yeah, I will always hold some kind of like feeling towards Nancy about abandoning you at that young age, like to not even believe that you had longer, to not even give you any chances. Like, so you said you wanted to live with your dad. That's a reason to lock you the fuck up. Like, what? How unfair. Like, that's where we can get stuck. This is why we self-medicate, right? This is why we go into things, because when the world has felt so incredibly unfair, where do you find happiness? You got to make your own. And sometimes that is just masking all the shit that you don't want to deal with. A lot of us scrolling on our phone is masking, right? We're all trying to like fill that space where things are not healed or said or done, or the shit that we still think about, we ruminate on, we mask it with something.
Yeah. Well, it didn't get any better, when I got older, because my dad didn't want anything to do with me. Once he got the new wife, then, like he didn't want to have a relationship with me. I would try, I'd intermittently try to reach out to him, and I would get like nothing. My mother, we would go in and out. And what she would do is, as I got into my adulthood, is she was very judgmental. So if I wasn't living exactly how she thought I should be living, she would be like, oh yeah, you're cut off. Like I did not want nothing to do with
judgment.
me. Not want me around the other, because, when I was 18, 20, early 20s, my siblings were 4, 5, and 6 years younger than me. Not 4 or 5, 3, 4 and 6 years. Those were the 3 younger siblings, and they didn't want me around. You know, they didn't want me like fucking influencing them. So there was like, yeah, no, you can't come and see us. Yeah, you know, no, you can't. You know, I mean, they didn't say those words, but that years later, you know, I'd figure out that. So my relationship with my parents never. It was my father, definitely not healed. I didn't see him for like over 40 years until I just decided, you know, a couple of years ago that I needed to, after I found my brother and I knew where he was, I just, you know, decided that in order for me to have closure, I needed to forgive him and tell him, you know,
I needed to go say her piece.
I needed to go say my thing. And I just wanted to close the door on it. Right. I didn't want to not have that final say because he was getting older at that point. He was like 85 or something. And so since I had that opportunity, I went out there and I took my girls, and I don't know if I knew what I was going to say, but his wife was super nasty to all of us when we were there. And he was a weak old man. You know, he was like pissing he was using a walker, and he had a thing of piss, you know, that he pissed into a bottle or whatever. You know, it was just, I was like, damn, you know, and then you see your parents like that. I was like, fuck. And all I told him then was that, you know, I forgive him and I love him. And I don't even know if I meant it when I said it, but I said it because I felt like I needed to say it. And he told stories about, you know, he told some stories to my girls about, you know, when I was a baby, things that he remembered, and he had like all the details of it. But
so what was neat about that is he never forgot you. It's not like he wrote you off. We also learned that your own fucking mother, my air quotes grandmother, told him that's not your child. Why do you want her anyways?
Yeah, she told him that I wasn't his. So that's why
he just kind of stopped. It was like, wow, that's not even my daughter.
And you know, that shit, my brother told me, I think my brother told me that, did Mike tell me that? I don't remember, but anyway, yeah, I know my mother told him that I wasn't his. And of course, when I found my brother, and my brother is still talking to him. So, when Jack tried to say she's not mine, and he's like, DNA says otherwise.
Right. Yeah. 23andMe.
Because my brother is a spitting image of my father. So there's no denying that that's his kid. And so if I'm his sibling, then you're definitely my dad.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Fucking crazy
so just
shit.
The hurt that other people tried to do to each other, that shit ripples. I mean, this is why it's such an interesting thing. I never talk about like a threefold rule. I don't know that I necessarily believe in it. You know, whatever you put out, you get back threefold. It's not that I believe that whatsoever. But there are times in life, in stories, and things that we have found that when we do something, that shit truly comes back to you. And it comes back in different ways that doesn't just hurt you. It hurts people around you. It's like it doesn't fucking stop when you've made a mistake sometimes. It just keeps perpetuating. And I know from my mom's perspective, she told us growing up all the fucked up things. And she said, I never want to be like that. You know, and there would be times when we would be talking in the car, because that was really the only time I could talk to her. We would drive around wherever the fuck we were going. We'd drive in. It was like, okay, story time. Let's go. Like, this is when I have my mom alone, because otherwise she's working 3 jobs and I don't see her that much. And I remember her saying, like, if I'm ever like, you tell me, I never want to be like this. You better tell me if I'm ever like, this is who I don't want to be. And I remember thinking, no, I mean, there's things, but they're outside of your control. Like, you can't be a fucking around the clock mom all the time, come to everything, like be available because you're trying to support us. So I didn't hold any grudges to the way that she had to live her life to support us 3 kids on her own. And everything that she did for us was like, yeah, I don't want to fail. Like, what she instilled in me is I didn't want to fail at life. I don't know, air quotes, that's not even really a thing, but like, I had this idea of what I wanted my life to look like, because her hard work should also show up in my life. So I remember when I was young, and sometimes I would get compliments like, you speak very well for your age. That was a weird compliment to get when you're like 16. I was like, what? I didn't know. How do people speak bad? I mean, whatever. But I gave so much credit to my mom until I was and probably till when I got out of the Navy at 25. You know, it was just like, anytime somebody would give me a compliment about my integrity, my, like the way that I operated, something to do with just my morals or values, I was like, yeah, I had a good mom. that is the way that I used to think her.
And that's how I fixed my shit. Although I did pass some things on, my children are all different, of course, like children are. And, how I was a mother with one was different than, they were different people. So you mother them a little bit differently, or your relationship is with them. So I do feel like I see some of my mother and my youngest daughter, and I see us battling, kind of like, going head to head, we're mirrors, actually. She's my mirror is what it is. I see myself in her, and I think it makes me crazy a little bit because I don't, even when she was like 11 and 12 and I was trying to stop her from doing the shit that I fucking did, that I knew was dangerous, like getting in cars with guys and going with 16-year-old guys. I know I know what's going to happen. What happened to me when I was 13 and got in a car with 4 guys? What the fuck? You know what I mean? And I tried to stop her, right? I tried to stop it, and she was just super rebellious, and she was angry. And as much as I tried, but it would piss me off, I kind of felt that when there comes a point when you're raising children where you no longer can control them, because you can't pick them up and put them in their room or spank their butts. And
there's no timeout.
There's no more timeouts. They're past that stage now. Yeah. Now they're like coming into their young adulthood where they're needing to break away from you. And that was something that I didn't really understand, but Jolene, she just started early, and it was not safe, but seeing it was like a fucking repeating pattern. It was just so weird. My mom locking me up, and then me locking her up, and her running away. And I was like, oh my God, with the boys and shit, just like,
that shit.
And the whole, fuck you attitude. It was totally like, it was me all over again. It was like I made a carbon copy of myself. But I think she got the side of us that's, there's a wild streak that runs through my family. And we're all a little bit rebellious and don't like authority and don't like people telling us what to do. And I don't know,
everybody but me.
Everybody but Jamie, because she's the only one that could handle the military. I could never do the military because I wouldn't want somebody screaming in my face and telling me what to do. I didn't like rules. I didn't like restrictions. I didn't like being confined, and being told I had to be here and be there, do this. Of course, once you get into adult and you're working, you're like, fuck.
My 9 to 5 does that every fucking day now.
I didn't know that was. I didn't really think this out, all the way. Like, damn, why did I want to grow up? Now you got all these responsibilities. You got to show up to work to get paid. You got to pay your bills, or they come and take your shit and turn off your lights. So you get kicked out of your apartment. So funny. All that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But. My mother. Okay, so I think I will just give you what's going on with my mother. I don't talk to her anymore. I went out to see her some years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years ago now.
More than 10 years ago.
No, Cameron was 10. We just looked at the trip pictures when we were up in Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it.
God.
This doesn't even feel like 10 years ago.
It feels like a long time. It feels
Cameron's
like 20. It feels like 20 years ago. But, she lives all the way in Oregon, so... I would try to maintain a relationship with her, but, my youngest sister, she's in her ear. And
she's fucking crazy.
And she's
unstable. She's unwell.
She really is. And her daughter hates her. She had a crazy daughter. So there's a lot of crazy in the family. Christina.
She raised her crazy? Or she just went crazy? She used to beat on Christina?
She used to beat on Christina. She was so awful to Christina. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
She was awful. And now her daughter that's my sister, my youngest sister. Now her daughter didn't have anything to do with her. The other sisters got super religious after being super promiscuous when she was like a teenager. Then she got she's like, every other word is God, and if God this.
It feels like a cult when I talk to her. I feel like she's in a cult. I love
you, Maria, but for real, it's off-putting, to have that. So you can't have a relationship there. But only 10 years ago, God damn, it seems like, I swear I thought it was 20 years ago.
No, just 10.
But I was going to go see her, and I was going to go out to visit her because I would be the one that would need to keep the relationship going. I had to do the reaching out. I didn't really get the effort. Yeah, I had to put the effort out. And yeah, to my youngest kid anyway, those family relationships are super important. So I tried to have that so that she could have, they wanted a grandmother and they didn't get a grandmother.
Shit, we wanted some kind of family. We were just like, it's just me and my mom and my sister and my brother. I was like,
I don't have anything to do with any of my family. And they wanted, they really wanted family. And I tried to do that, with my mom so they could at least try to keep that relationship going with her. But after my stepdad died a few years ago and, I was going to go see her and he was sick and she's like, no, wait. And then when I called afterward, I was like, she's just never called me since then. It's like, that's it.
Yeah. We actually get told from one of my mom's sisters, like, don't call her, don't try to see her. We're literally told to not communicate with her. Nope. Don't call her. It's not a good time. She said, don't do it. So, the whole time it's kind of like you're just left wondering what the fuck and is it even worth it? I gave up on it. Seeing her 10 years ago, that was really cool. And that was neat. But I knew, I was like, this is a really exceptional pass into a place like a mythical fucking forest that I'll never know again. I'll never see it. And I tried to be as true to myself as I could be while I was there. But I could also see that she had no idea what to do with me either. She knew a lot of my life. She would call and check in. And it was funny when we were younger and we would take phone calls from her every once in a while, or she would call you. You could hear her asking questions and then writing the fucking answers in. Her whole thing, which I admire and respect, is that she has recorded our family's history and the lineages and the kids and what's happened and where we've been. She has created a book of the family, which is probably her one endearing quality.
It's ancestry. She really got into ancestry. So she's traced ours back to 1600s and gave everybody a book with all everybody's names and where they came from. A lot of work, a lot of genealogy.
Her whole life she spent doing this.
In genealogy for I don't even know how many years.
She used to have to write letters to people to get things back. So she would wait months on stuff. Those are some of the things I got to talk to her about over the couple months that I was there. Her love of dolls, and she didn't know that other people thought dolls were really fucking creepy, but she has one whole room of dolls that has shelves all over the walls, and there's all doll pieces and parts, and then there's dolls that
she made dolls for a long time. So porcelain dolls, fired them, painted them, made all their clothes. She was a seamstress.
Fired them? She made the porcelain parts?
Yeah, she painted them, fired them. She had
artistic abilities like me?
I get. Well, she was a really good seamstress. So
interesting.
Yeah. But my youngest, she called my mother not too long ago,
I guess 2 months ago.
I guess
maybe 3.
She called her to put her on Front Street about all the shit she did to her mother, me, and my mom didn't want to hear it.
She basically said, "I'm done with this conversation now."
Yeah.
That was the way she ended it.
My fiery little daughter, just not good. She's going to have her say, But anyway, my mother will die, soon, probably in the next.
We don't even know if anybody will tell us.
Nobody will tell us. Nobody told me when my stepdad died.
No.
I never would have known when my father died if I hadn't found my brother. So I won't know. I won't know till after the fact. But one of the things about my parents, I scared them. Because of the life that I lived. They were afraid of me and they were afraid of your dad because we lived in a world that they didn't understand. This was the 80s. If you didn't know anything about what was going on in the 80s, Rick and I were doing all the things that was going on in the 80s. And I won't elaborate because you can read into that what you will.
I remember MTV on the TV all the time. But
they, the life that they lived with their little suburban, their suburban life.
They were definitely the white picket fence family.
They were afraid of the people that might be around us or what might happen. They were afraid that my husband, I was married to their dad. They were afraid he might do something, violent.
Violent.
Yeah.
They were afraid of violence.
They were afraid of, And I think, so they were afraid because the life that I lived was so vastly different from the life that they knew, from anything that they knew. And all they knew about people like me was that, they end up, do you know what my parents told me? They really thought that I was going to end up on a street corner. That's what they told me.
Classy.
Yeah.
Classy.
I mean, they're like, we're just, and I can't remember when this was like, I was much older. By this time I like had a career, I'd been married. I'd pulled myself up out of all the shit that I was in. It was probably in my 40s when it was like, yeah, we used to think that you would end up on a street corner. And I was like,
Katrina the hooker.
I mean, even if you thought, I was like, well, it's probably lucky that that I didn't end up on a fucking corner.
Well, you know what I think to that? Like, what played in my head first is immediately like, yeah, no thanks to you, motherfuckers.
Right.
Like, you didn't help me not end up on a corner ever.
Because I was fucking resourceful and smart. I wasn't gonna. That was gross to me. Like I had a friend who did that. Like go down to fancy hotels in San Diego and hook up with dudes for money. And I was going to do it with her one time because I needed money. And then I was like, I can't just fuck old men. I was like, oh, that was so gross to me. So I couldn't, I was like, yeah. So that wigged me out, thinking about doing stuff. I was like, oh, God, that's fucking gross. I needed to at least think a guy was hot before if he was hot,
standards.
If I thought he was hot, I had no problem. But ugly old guys, like, oh God, no, I would die first. I
love that because when I was in South Carolina and I'd moved to Florida and was like trying to not just be a government employee anymore. I was like trying to get out of the game of like working for the government and moving and transferring and all the shit. Rachel's mom was like, you guys should just go down to what's an expensive hotel?
The Ritz-Carlton.
There you go. We had a Ritz-Carlton here. I think we still do. They just remodeled it. And that's in Tampa. I don't fucking remember. Anyway, she's like, you guys should just go to the hotel bar. You should just go to the Ritz-Carlton and wait for some man to pick you up and just like get in good there. And I was like, what the fuck? That's a career. That's a career move for you. I was like, all right, Sheila. And Sheila was very smart, is very smart. I'm pretty sure she's still alive, but she was into computers and software and like JavaScript and all kinds of shit. But yeah, she's going to tell her daughter and her daughter's best friend, like, you guys should just take it easy, go to the hotel, fuck some men, get some money. Like, what?
I mean, I don't know. The women, it's like, I don't know what generation she's from, but
she would be your age or a little.
Yeah. So I mean, was it the parents that raised us that made you say shit like that? Like, I don't even fucking know, right?
I don't know.
I was thinking about something about why. I was thinking about religion because, at each place that I went, when I was a teenager, I had to go along. I had to do whatever everybody told me to do. Right. So there was church. There was at one point, I lived in a foster home and they were religious, but their religion was a cool church. Right. So like, there were revivals at the beach, and there was baptisms in the ocean. That's the kind of family that they were. That's the kind of church they went to. So it was not like the Baptist one in a foster home later on where I learned the 66 books of the Bible, how to memorize, and did all this other bullshit, right? But I was thinking about how, you're raised up in religion. I don't know why this came to me today, but then you turn away from it when you get older because you look back at all these people who were preaching to you about all the shit. Don't do this. Don't do that. You're going to go to heaven. And almost every one of them is fucking hypocrites.
Yeah.
Because they're all like at home with their pornos or they're having threesomes. So they're all hypocrites. And yet they're telling you to do this stuff or you're going to go to hell. So I turned away from church like young, really, really young because of all that stuff that I saw, which is why, and I never, I was like, I did not. There were a couple times in my life where I tried to go back to church for the community of it, and I took the kids, but it never lasted for me because it's, it was like I can't with religion, but I can with this. And I guess what I'd like to do is try to come back to like somewhere where the point of this, the topic of this was abandonment, and I think a lot of us experience that in,
one way or another,
mm-hmm. Or we also experience some other event as children that cause us to feel worthless. And unlovable. And so we're always struggling throughout. And I struggled like throughout my life and picked not good men, picked men that I was trying to heal, trying to build something, trying to
prove your worth,
trying to prove my worth. Stuck around with guys who didn't treat me well, because if I could make them love me, then I could like prove that, or I was trying to recreate something that I didn't have. I mean, when I think of the mess of my love life, and I'm glad that, finally at this point in my life, I'm okay. I got out of the like long 15-year relationship. And for the last 7 years, I've been healing, and I can finally look back on it and, see that see why I did a lot of the things that I did, like why I made the choices that I made, how I kept picking the wrong guy, how I let guys, treat me bad, even hit me, even just do things because it's like I wanted so much to just be loved. And that makes you sometimes put up with shit. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm healed. I feel like I'm healed now.
Well, you've processed a lot of it. You've analyzed it. You've reflected on it. You've done a lot of shadow work around it.
Well, it doesn't, it's not a story that I tell anymore. So that I realized some time back that I quit telling that story, because I used to tell the whole story of the whole story from 11 to 16 for sure. I told that story for a lot of years because I identified, and, probably all through my 20s with the people that I would meet, the people that I would be involved with, my friends, they all knew that, because it was so close to still, it was not very many years in the past. And so it was all still really fresh. And, but at some point I stopped telling the story. I stopped saying it. And when I realized, I was like, that's good. I think that's good. You don't need to, you've said it enough, and it's enough time has gone by, and you can look back on it and say, yeah, those things happen, but I'm okay. And, if there's anything that I can say about all the shit that I went through, the one thing that it gave me was fucking resilience. The one thing that it taught me was that I could fucking survive anything, because I have survived more shit in my life and situations in my life where, maybe I shouldn't even, I don't think that, hitchhiking across country was probably one of the most dangerous things that I did. But I survived them all, and I raised kids, and I have good kids, my kids are good. They're good people.
We're good humans.
And they're loving, and they love me, and I love them. And so, I feel like I can look at it all now, and now I have grandchildren, and so I'm like getting to be the grandmother that my children never got. And that's something that,
now you're gonna make me cry, because all the things that you do for Cameron is just like we never had that.
That's how I'm changing that, because they didn't get a grandma, and I didn't have a grandma either, because my mother didn't have a relationship with her mother, so I never, except my dad's grandma, but fuck, that point I wasn't even. Anyway, so I get to be the grandma that my mother never was, and it's for my children's children. And there's something, that has value, that has worth, that's a good thing to leave. That's a good legacy for me to leave.
So do you see your worth now?
I do. Yeah. It's still, to say it's still painful a little bit, because of course I'm talking about all this shit, but I think so.
I hope so.
I hope so. I think there's times when I'll have a doubt, sometimes my confidence is lacking. Like, we just talked to one of the first or second podcast we did was about me not having a voice, not being able to like confront a guy who was, bringing up sex with me, like as soon as crossing lines, and not,
lines.
Like boundaries. Oh my God, I didn't have boundaries at all.
Yeah.
And, so, I'm still there. It still comes up, the shit from them, it comes back in your face where you're like, okay, I didn't learn that skill, or I'm trying to learn that skill, or my voice was taken from me, or my voice was squashed because, like my mother was like the iron fist, right, on top of me when I was when I was 3 to 10, age 3 to 10, pivotal years, when you're raising a kid. That's the time. Man, I did so much stuff with my kids. I made my kids costumes. I tried to make my kids' lives when they
so
were
much fun.
I used to make peanut brittle and I can think of they have core memories of me being, and I don't have any of that from my own mother. Nothing. I have nothing like that.
You have all the trauma memories.
I have just trauma memories. And so, to be able to grow up and get your shit together and have your kids and keep getting your shit together and keep evolving, even when you're making mistakes along the way, but then then raise them up into the world and get them out and then go through their trials and tribulations, but then they become parents and they become more mature adults and they work through their shit. And to see us all now at this stage, where Jamie just turned 45, she just had a birthday. She just had a birthday last month. The youngest grandson is 17. The two older ones are 20. Jolene's going to be 40 this year, and everybody's good, and we just got together. We just all got together last night and celebrated the February birthdays at my son's house and played pool and had banana splits. And so making those memories and all the memories that I didn't get when I was,
Yeah. The way she talks about everything that we've just done, that shit was fantasy life. For like growing up, that's not the way life was. Life was hard. It was never fun. You had to struggle. There was this. You were always working towards something. You were always under pressure of something. And we're all finally at this place where it's not like we don't have problems. We have problems, but we've learned to work together with them. We can lean on each other. There's something that has come back around because we spent years apart. I was gone from you guys for a long time.
Yeah.
And with you moving here and then John moving here. And
we all moved, in the last 5 years, we've all moved to the same area. So we're like a mile apart from each other.
Didn't he come only a year after you? So it's been 6 years.
Okay. 6 years. Yeah.
This has been fucking phenomenal because it does not eliminate problems from our life, to say the least. I think people have always asked me this with witchcraft. Well, why don't you just do a spell for that? Why don't you just fix things? Well, that's not the fucking point of doing spells and witchcraft and rituals and stuff. It's like you still have to live the life. You still have to do the things. You still have to go through the lessons because your soul came here to learn something, and we're still learning. But what we do now is we handle it better. We don't react in such a base mode of survival and fuck you, I'm going to get mine. I'll fuck everybody over. I'm going to lie, steal, cheat. What you act in now a more evolved way because you've gone through the lessons, because now you know that you don't have to do it that way, that there is another option. And for us, it's shit still comes up. We still have anger. We still have there'll be cycles where, when there's a month where something bad happened, you still have this little, your body sort of remembers, oh fuck, this time of year is hard. Oh man, okay, so this is when somebody's passed away, or this is when we've had a big fight, or there's been something.
Yeah.
And things still flare up and we still have to talk shit through. And the difference between back then and now is we're way more committed to making it work and learning what that means. Does one of us need to admit we're wrong, or we've been fucked up, or that wasn't a good idea? And the other one needs to accept the apology and say, I'm glad that we got to talk about this. And, I would really like this to not happen again, but let's, we don't fucking cut each other off. We don't send each other off to fucking jail. We don't ostracize each other. We don't say, fuck you, write you off, never talk to you again, have a nice life. That is what we really stopped. Because I think that was what was so big, not just in my mom's side of the family, but in my own dad's side of the family. I have that on both parents. So I didn't get the direct abandonment. My parents were always there during my life. Even when my dad was in prison for 20 years, he wrote me and sent me art, and we talked all the time. And there was still a relationship, even though he couldn't physically be part of my life. But from both my parents, they were absolutely written off by their family. So there's still, my sister and I have always felt like there's missing parts. We felt abandonment through our parents' abandonment. And we tried to vow to don't ever do that to each other. Family is all we have. And there can be unrealistic expectations set with that. What does family really mean? You have to define all of that. When you weren't fucking taught what family really means, you have to learn in your dynamic environment for whatever unique situation you have, what family means to you, what depending on each other means. How much are you allowed to depend on somebody or ask of them or take from them or accept, or all of those things have to be defined each time you build a new little family unit of unique people and personalities. Because one hard thing about our family is we're all fucking alphas. Every single one of us are alphas. And there's none of us like to be told what to do or pushed around or do I'm the most people pleasing and like go with the flow person, but I even have my limits. And I think it's, to heal from everything that my mom has been through has been to continually decide for ourselves what family looks like to us. That has been the saving grace. It's like, we get to decide what family looks like. We get to decide how we treat each other, how we act, how we stay in communication, how we express our love. I've been around families that don't ever say, I love you, hug and kiss. Like, my mom was away from us for so long that I remember when you first got here and you would just like hang up the phone. Okay, bye. I was like, no, Mom. Okay, love you. Bye. We had to practice this. I was like, Mom, this is what we say when we're getting off the phone. But she hadn't had the love from her two daughters in so long like that. She had to learn it and accept it. And we pushed it on her and like, Mom, we're doing this.
Well,
this is how it goes.
Getting comfortable with it, because when you're not used to doing that, it just,
hugs and kisses and I love you and goodbye.
Just getting, yeah. I did have to learn that, didn't I?
You did.
I've still, listen, even at just coming here, it's been a whole thing, because when I first got here, I've had to be checked by my daughters on some of my shit, before. And it's not easy to accept, when somebody tells you that, hey, that what you did, what you said or what you did was fucked up. Because, I'm their mother, right? I should know better. I should have known not to say that or do that. And I did it anyway, kind of like almost like reaction I can't really explain it. But I think the growing part for me has been to, as hard as it was to hear, and as first, I'm going to get my, my hackles up or whatever you call them and get, thinking about it and realizing that they're right. I won't do that again. You're right. That was wrong. I won't say that. Or one of my things was like, get drunk and take off. Like, I'm leaving, be out somewhere. And when I'm done, listen, when we go out, because when we first went here, we used to go out and stuff. But when I'm done and I'm going. And I don't really give a fuck what anybody else has to say. And that really bothered them and worried them. And they were worried about me and stuff. And I took it, when they would try to, no, don't leave. No, you can't leave. Like, don't tell me what I can't do.
Oh, then she was that young kid again and being like, I'll fucking show you what I can do. You could see some of this, and it's not unique to her. My sister is the same way. If I ever try to tell her, like, no, don't do it, she's like, you are not the boss of me. That's something we grew up saying. You are not the boss of me. And, we've had to learn each other's tolerances for different things and also accept it. I've had to openly admit, I'm like you. When I'm done with something, I'm fucking done. And that's it. And when I say I want to go, if you're not ready to go, I'll get an Uber. I don't care. I have to leave. I know when I'm done, and I don't like to stay in places when I'm uncomfortable. I'm fucking done. That's it. And I've done it to my husband even. So I've like walked off and tried to get an Uber home. I've realized I'm too, like, I don't like being drunk. Drunk is not a good place for me, but a good buzz is okay. Like, I'm okay with a buzz. But if I feel like, and my husband was the worst, he would just like give me drink after drink after drink. And I would tell him, don't fucking do that to me. Because then as soon as I realize I'm drunk, I got to go, because I do not want to make an ass out of myself. I don't want anything to happen to me. I don't want to get hurt. Like, I need to be at my home. I need to be safe. Yeah,
you feel like you're out of control at that.
Well, I know I'm not in control. Yeah. I'm like, I need to fucking be at home right now. Like, that's it. I belong nowhere else other than home. And if somebody doesn't listen to me, I already have it set in my mind. I will do what I want. I will get myself home. I am perfectly capable of, I'm a bad ass independent person. Like, that's just going to happen.
I did raise very independent kids.
That's why I say we're all alphas.
every single one of them. So, for all that.
And we've all been to a place where we've been taken advantage of. So when it comes to taking care of our own needs, we will fuck everyone over to make sure we're okay. And by fuck over, I mean, like, we're going to leave, we're going to ghost you and tell you sorry later. It's not really a fuck over, but it's not a good thing to do.
And it's hard because, people are out partying and they're having a good time. But when you reach a point where you're like, now I'm not having a good time, and they still want to have a good time, and they don't really want to listen to that you're not having a good time. Just come on and do this. Just have another show. Whatever the fuck. And you're like, no, I'm done. I have to go. But I don't ever say it like that. It's more like, no, I got to go. It's bitchy.
It's angry.
It's angry, because it's angry because as soon as I feel like somebody trying to put
but that's when you have to go. Like, if you're not pleasant anymore, we got to go. Or you're done, or you want to go home, or I don't want to do this.
I think the other thing also that I've learned, of course, is that drinking's not good for me. I didn't used to drink a lot, and then I came to Florida, and like Florida is all you do is drink. At least that's what we did in the first few years that I was here. Everything we did had drinking involved in it. Every single thing.
Since my mom didn't drink, she didn't know how to sip a drink. She also drinks like she's in college, where she's just like chugging shit. I'm like, slow down. What are you doing? That's not the point. So
yeah, because I was never a drinker.
No. So she was just like, this tastes good. Oh. I'm like, no, that's not how we drink a margarita, Mom.
Shit.
Lots of fun, but lots of lessons. And I mean, I guess that's what I was saying. Like, when you find your family, whatever that looks like, whatever dynamic that is, you do have to be really honest about what your needs and desires are, what your wants are, what is your non-negotiables, because that has to be set. All those things for healthy relationships within family dynamics.
You need to know your boundaries. Yeah, you really do. And you have to be able to find a way to express them in a way that is, firm, but not mean and not hurtful to the person, because this is, the thing that I guess I have to remind myself is like, I love this person. This is my child. I love this person. And so, to come from that, to try to approach it in that way. And it can be hard because sometimes the boundary that needs to be set, it's a delicate, it's like this really, almost no matter how you're going to say it, it's going to, somebody's feelings are going to get hurt because it's just something that's like, I don't like that, and I don't want you to do that. And they're like, but why? But why don't you want to, I'm a homebody, I'm a 6. So everything is about the home and the hearth for me. And I'm comfortable at home. I don't want to be out a lot. I have kids that like to go out and party and be out in crowds and stuff like that. And that was okay for a while. I could tolerate it when I was drinking, but now I'm like, no, I'd rather be home because people are assholes and I just don't want to be in the shit. I don't want to be in the mix, and people aren't very nice. And so fuck it. Let me just stay in my little kingdom here, queendom.
I look forward to going out to having deep conversations with other people. That's the only type of socializing I like. If I'm not able to do that, I don't want to fucking be there. So it definitely depends on the place and the vibe. I don't like just going out to go out. That's why we don't go out on major holidays. We don't, but it's, as we all get together, we have to be able to express that in a way that's like affectionate and like, listen, I would love to do that with you, but it doesn't actually make me happy.
Yeah.
So
and that's sometimes hard to hear, because
you want to hang out with your favorite people.
Yeah.
And you want to do your favorite things with your favorite people.
And now, especially when I'm not drinking, like I have to, if I know better than to, because I've had to learn the lessons, right? I've had to have the experience that didn't turn out well, that when I'm not drinking and everybody else is drinking, like, you know what? Once I see it going to a certain point or past a certain point, I know it's time for me to go. I need to go home because stuff starts getting talked about that gets emotional and people's feelings start getting hurt, including mine. And then, I'm going to, I'm not going to handle it well. It's just, because the mouthiness, I know I need to go. So
all things that we learn about ourselves when we understand our origin story, why we've built our walls, where we feel safe and valued, how we can help other people understand what we need in order to be happy, because that's a conversation that has to be had. Anytime you have a relationship where it is more than just you, yourself, and I, you have to consider that you are working with a whole nother ass person's feelings, emotions, and their origin story and things they've been through and the way that they see the world, like the lens that they're looking through. That is one of the things that I do love about being a witch is that when I get around other witchy women, I just immediately accept them for anything and everything that they've been through.
I know. I
It's
feel like
so
it's a whole
open.
accepting thing. You know, it's like all of us come together with the same kind of like we're just accepting, like you're an Aries. I've never had an Aries friend before, but I really I dig your energy, man. Your energy is good, and so that's what we're feeding off of.
Because I think that we all have in our mind. I think that there's always the same goal of like we're just always trying to do a little better, just like always trying to grow a little bit, just always trying to do a little better. So no matter what any of us are feeling when we all get together in our witch groups, it's what are you dealing with today? Like, what's your update? What's going on with you? Like, how can we help you? Maybe you just need to talk about it. What's the insight that we can give you? You know, I don't want you to feel alone. Here's how I've been through that as well. And having an awesome group of women, you guys, oh man, that is goals I never knew I needed. I never knew I needed it. I was always like, no, I'm good alone. Me and my kid, it's fine. But now that I have it, I don't ever want it to go away. And that's what we get after years and years of suffering with people.
We get, we
refine ourselves.
Something I think about is like this life isn't easy. We all come here with hard lessons to learn, and just being in this in this earthly plane, the spiritual beings being here on earth, is hard. And so and I'm sure nobody escapes it. Nobody escapes the hard shit. No. And I think what I've learned in the last 7 years by becoming a spiritual person is that, that I can work through those things. I've learned acceptance. I've learned to see things that I didn't see before, and that I sort of blocked out of my purview. Like, whatever, like it didn't affect me. And I've learned to accept things about myself and other people, and just to try to be more loving and kind. And I think that's all that we can do. So, we're coming up on 2 hours. I think we should find a place. Yes. I think we should find a way to, wrap this up and just say, whew, that was a lot. And, if you have anything that you'd like to share with us, we're always here. So reach out. 7greensisters@gmail.com is our email address. Yeah. And of course we have Instagram, TikTok.
Always contact us. Yeah.
We're all over the place. Facebook. And then of course you can always comment on here. So I hope that you guys got something from this tonight.
Yeah.
And we love you. And we will see you on the next pod.
Yeah, my closing statement would be, I don't like the word grace. It reminds me so much of the religious thing, but I really have found telling myself to have more grace with myself and more grace for other people, to just like not be as harsh.
Yes.
And not just soften yourself to what other people might be going through, or like the expression of ourselves and what we're all dealing with. And I'm not saying like let people walk all over you or be a doormat or anything, but when you start to deal with your own shit and then other people's shit, give it a little bit of grace and even time in between there, because things get heated and you react because of your origin stories.
Yeah, we all have the story. We all have the trauma that we're carrying through and that we're trying to.
And sometimes that comes out first.
Yeah.
And then when we're able to just like give it a little time, we can act with more grace and more understanding, and just like give ourselves time to think about it.
Yeah, the acknowledgement and acceptance and grace.
And love. Think is acting as love,
kindness and love. Yeah.
Kindness and love.
And we love you.
We love you guys so much.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye, witches.
Bye.